Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
I was hoping it was you.
I wanted it to be you.
I wanted it to be you. I first of all, I did want it to be you because I was texting you earlier and I was like, I'm so happy and glad that we are having a Class-eek episode today. Just you and me, gal. Yeah, just you and me, gal. This is our rom-com, okay?
This is our meet cute.
The will they, won't they is been going for 6 years now, you know?
Yeah, it's beginning to look like won't they? No.
Yeah. Ask Dan. See if he's like chill, you know?
Exactly.
I know you guys have that extra bedroom.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, if you ever need a place to stay, just saying.
You should just adopt me at this point.
This is my partner, and this is our baby. Yeah. Don't ask.
And it's just me in a diaper. But it's your kink, not mine.
Right, exactly. And also, how is that different than normal?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a subject, we take a month, we learn as much information as we can, watch as many movies as possible, and we give that information all back to you.
We are so excited. We have been doing this for 10,000 years.
10,000 years when all... Wait, that's not how the song goes.
That's really not.
Oh my God, though, we are going to be talking about City of Angels in this episode, and I have to ask if you... I know, don't worry, we won't say any positive things about it. I do have to ask... Did you see Kelly Clarkson and Alanis singing Uninvited?
Oh my God. So good.
And I know, good. And I know this episode just went up like 10 gay points just by referencing that. But like, if you haven't seen it, delight yourself. First of all,
please.
Alanis' voice, never better. Kelly Clarkson, an angel.
Never better. Talk about City of Angels, okay?
Yes,
wherever Kelly Clarkson and Alanis Morissette are, that's the City of Angels, okay?
A real quick, just to get this out up top, by the way, the Mixed Reviews is now part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. It is a podcast network which has a ton of great shows, and you can check out all of their other shows if you just go to glitterjaw.com. Distant Echoes, which is a Star Wars podcast, Gimmicks, which is a television podcast, Screonk, which is a Godzilla podcast, Are You My Mother, which is a podcast focused on mothers on video.
I am your mother.
How dare you talk to me that way? I am your mother. Yeah, and we're so very proud to be part of that podcast collective, and it's a very new thing for us, and I forgot to mention it last episode, but I need to mention it at the top of every episode from now on.
Yes, because we are so excited to be with that happy gang of queerdos, because guess what? So are we, bitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, finally we found a place where we fit.
Finally. Before we get into this week's subject and topic, we have a little bit of old business.
Don't call me old.
We have a lot of old business, and he is across this camera from me right now. No. Our last episode was our annual tradition of a spooky episode, and we did all slashers with our guest from all the way down under, Miss Maria Lewis.
What an angel.
Horror icon, writer extraordinaire. What was the cultural etymologist? Is that right?
Yes, very good. I was like waiting with bated breath.
Honey, I got it.
I need to stop admitting to baiting on the podcast. Oh no.
Gavin, I thought we had a cease and desist already.
Sorry, we're working blue tonight.
Yeah, we're real blue. We asked you guys to go online and vote for your favorite slasher film, and here are the results. Maria's pick, There's Someone Inside Your House, came in at last place at 2%. Nightmare on Elm Street came in at third. That was my pick at 21%. Scream, second place with 37%. And then Gavin's pick, Halloween, 40%, baby.
Just edging it out there. But I will say, it just goes to show you the audience that we have. Very gay-centered audience that were like, Scream, yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And I mean, I couldn't fit the entire title of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which was really my pick.
Yeah.
Because it's gay. But yeah, what a fun, spooky little, season we had. I was very reticent.
Oh, good vocab word.
Thank you. But I think what I've found is like, you got to find your right flavor of slasher, because a lot of don't cancel me. A lot of the newer ones just really want to show you like the disgustingness of it all, and like which is really not my vibe. But like all those kooky booky 70s 80s ones were really fun. So,
yeah. And like there's a place for but I understand. And I think that truly is just like any subject that we cover, you know, there's a vampire movie for everybody, there's a zombie movie for everybody, there's a ghost movie for everybody, and I think there's a slasher for everybody. And there are a lot of bad ones out there. So like
also, Gavin, did you want to show we have a last minute spooky season of announcements?
Yes. I'm going to cover up this last name in case you're watching on Patreon, but we got this lovely Halloween card from our listener, Michelle, and these are her beautiful children.
All dressed up. Was one Travis Kelce?
Yes. See, I was like, I don't know what that is. I was like, there's a peacock, there's Travis Kelce, there's the Ninja Turtle, a Minecraft character. I said that like the oldest person in the world.
I know.
Do your kids like the Minecraft?
The Minecraft.
A Spider-Man, a character from Encanto, and Dredrick.
What the Dredrick?
Yeah,
I don't know what a Dredrick is.
I don't know what a Dredrick. but thank you so much, Michelle. Your family's adorable. We love getting this every year, and so kind of you. Also, I did want to give a shout out to our latest All-Star tier supporter on Patreon, and that's my good friend Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. I know she got a big kick out of the slasher episodes, and we really appreciate you joining the Patreon.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. You guys can join us over on Patreon where we see videos and little bonus things. We appreciate you.
We absolutely do.
But okay, spooky season is over. We're feeling ring ting tingling ting. The turkeys are gobbling. It is certainly getting Frigidaire up here in New York.
Horses.
Yes,
horses.
yes. And so, Gavin, why don't you tell the folks who we're talking about today?
We're talking about the one, the only, the absolutely charming. What is the word they keep using all throughout? You've Got Mail.
The enchanting.
Enchanting. The enchanting Meg Ryan.
Yes, one of the original, rom-com divas of the 90s. Her and Julia and Sandra, the chokehold they had on America.
Oh my God. And if the man wasn't, falling into a coma, having a dead wife and calling it a radio show, chasing after a runaway bride, where would we be?
Where would we be? I think you could probably argue this, but that era really was just like the golden age of rom-coms. And certainly we don't have too many of them anymore.
Right. And there's comedic romances. There always been. You look at the 50s, you look at the 60s, but like I truly like the formula was really perfected in the 90s. You got your Nora Ephrons and just the sort of the mastermind of it all.
May she rest.
May she rest.
Icon. The work she did. The
father, the son, the Nora Ephrons.
Yes.
It is so funny, by the way. I just think it's like looking at, going from slashers to Meg Ryan is the ultimate, like, Gavin picked an episode, Louis picked an episode.
She has a film out.
She does. And that's not me shitting on this. I had a great time. I'll be perfectly honest. There's some bad movies in here, and we will talk about it. But she is so delightful. She is so natural. There is absolutely, I don't remember which actor said it, but they said that she's just naturally charming, and it's something you can't replicate. It's not something you can fake, and that's Meg Ryan.
Yeah, and she has said she never wanted to be an actor. She's one of those girlies who just kind of it happened to her, kind of. And she's even said recently, when she was at the peak of her powers, she didn't take advantage of it. She didn't try to muscle I've made you $250 million for this movie, so I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want next. She never was that person because she never was actually, playing the game.
Right.
For good, for better or for worse, she just wasn't as, we've covered a lot of people who are hungry for this, hungry to be an actor. That's all they wanted to do. That wasn't Meg. And, she kind of fell into it. And I think that speaks a lot to the naturalness that you mentioned. She just has that kind of innocence. And we'll see, as you know, in her career, when she kind of betrays that innocence on screen, the girlies were not here for it. Which, you know, is a shame because she's great.
It's true. It's just interesting too, because like the arc of her career kind of perfectly matches. I've talked about this. I don't know if I've actually ended up having been able to talk about this on the show before, but culturally, especially in the United States, as much as we like to pretend like the 90s was this like easy breezy, like sexual liberated, the end of the 90s, the early 2000s, I mean, obviously when George W. Bush was president, like there was this kind of push towards conservatism in the media.
Yeah.
And she had this like incredibly impeccable crafted media personality. She was America's sweetheart.
Yep.
And for what happened to happen and the press to turn against her, which is an incredibly powerful thing. And you may not think it is, but like when you have the news telling you what to think about a person, when you have newspapers telling you, tabloids and talk shows, and everybody wanted to get their opinion out there. Everybody wanted to have their say on Miss Meg Ryan, America's sweetheart. It's kind of devastating, actually, what happened to her. And that's why it's really funny to see her. She's having this sort of comeback moment now because she just directed her second film, which we'll probably talk about in the fast forward. And everybody keeps being like, what kept you away so long? And it's like, you did.
Yeah.
You.
And she is Meg Ryan, who made hundreds of millions of dollars for Hollywood. And she's like, I can't get anything going, you know?
Right.
Hollywood has changed. And so has she. So, there's a lot to dive in here. And I'm excited because I'm going to be frank, I hadn't seen a lot of these movies. Even like, girly, I saw When Harry Met Sally last Thursday for the first time. I know.
Shocking.
Did I cry? Absolutely.
Of course you did.
Absolutely. And so there was a lot of blind spots like that. And I am so glad that we got to, you know, that's part of the reason why we started this podcast, to like, you know, cover some of those bases that maybe we hadn't gotten to, and hopefully, you know, our listeners can do the same through this. So yeah, Meg Ryan, I'm excited. Let's go. Let's jump into our rewind.
I like that. Meg Ryan, let's go.
She just makes me feel like, first of all, like I have a bob, a little wavy blonde bob, the Meg. Honestly, we are gonna have to talk about her hair in these movies, because I feel like when they like want her to be edgy, they like straighten the bob.
Oh my god, just razor cut. Like yeah.
She's like frazzled Meg.
Yeah.
But then when she's like fun and carefree, it's like her little waves, and she's like so silly Billy. Oh, Meg. Or should I call you Margaret? Yes, that's right. Meg Ryan was born Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hyra.
Hail Hyra.
Hail Hyra. In November 19th, 1961. So she is 61 years old. So young. Like,
young.
I
she's still very young.
I didn't think I realized how young she is. 61 years old. Girlie's got a lot of life left in her. She was born in Fairfield, Connecticut. Her mother, Susan, was a homemaker and eventually became a theater teacher, I believe. And her father, Harry, who was a math teacher, she has two sisters, and her parents divorced kind of like early in her teenage life. You know, she wanted to be a journalist. You know, when she was growing up, she, you know, I think she lived probably a pretty charmed, you know, classic Northeast life. And, you know, she got into NYU, was going to study journalism. And as it happens to be, when you're a young diva living in New York City, she caught the acting bug, you know?
I was a journalism major at New York University, and I was paying my way through school. And how I did it was I did commercials, and every now and then I would get an assignment from my my journalism teacher, and for instance, I went to the As the World Turns, the soap opera audition, so that I could write about auditioning for a soap opera. And I got the part, which I really only wanted to write a paper about it, but I got the part.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Yeah.
Don't make me sing, guys. I'm just here to check things out. They just wanted me. It's crazy.
But the reason why I'm a little suspicious of this account of this is that in 81, she's in George Cukor's final film, Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
And I think she's on As the World Turns after, which is, I guess, not to say that she couldn't have done this movie role, but like a movie role is big. And I watched Rich and Famous and was like, this is not a small, like she has like 3 large scenes.
Yeah, so she does, like you said, 1981, she does George Cukor's Rich and Famous. She gets steady work doing As the World Turns.
I get the feeling that you have a hard time opening up.
I guess, we don't know each other well enough for me to be spilling out everything.
Well, I would like to change that. Betsy, are you seeing anybody at the university?
No, nobody special.
Well, are you in Andropolis?
Craig, I told you, we're just friends, all right? He was Nick's brother.
She played Betsy Stewart in As the World Turns. I think 30-ish episodes. She was also doing commercial work. There's a Burger King commercial. There's a toothpaste commercial. She's like kind of weirdly out of nowhere, just like collecting, credits. And there are bit parts of movies that are just like kind of stacking up. I don't know if any of these mean anything to you, Gavin.
I've now seen every Meg Ryan movie. So they all mean things to me.
I watched about half of Promised Land.
Yeah.
And I didn't turn on...
her great scenes are at the end, so sorry. But
I don't know why I turned it off. It wasn't because I hated it, but I was just like, I have to go. But it really isn't until, she reads for a little movie called Top Gun, that she gets, she got an Independent Spirit nomination for Promised Land. And so also, to be clear, she has dropped out of school. Does not finish NYU journalism, LOL. Bye, I'm famous now. But yeah, so she reads for the role. What's her name? Carol Bradshaw in a little movie called Top Gun. Tom Cruise has gone on to say that like when she went in to read, it was just like luminescent. She lit up the room. And so she plays the wife of Goose.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah. And it's not like a huge part by any means. In Top Gun Maverick, there's a little picture that they show of her.
Yeah, I was going to say somehow genetically her and Anthony Edwards made Miles Teller, but whatever.
I don't see it, but...
I don't either.
But let's just say that.
They could have cast Jack Quaid. I'm just saying.
They could. I think Jack Quaid is quite good.
I love Jack Quaid. I mean, he's a Star Trek guy. I mean, of course I love Jack Quaid.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah.
So yeah, Top Gun is, kind of like the first thing that is a moneymaker for her. Let's say that. She's, commercial success. She is in Inner Space in 1987 where she meets future husband Dennis
Quaid.
Dennis.
As the French call him, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis.
Can we pause for just a brief moment? I love I love Inner Space. Like Gavin. Inner Space is, first of all I've ever wanted to do in my life is make a movie and put Sam Cooke's Cupid in it. And I know even if I do that, it won't be as perfect as it's used in Inner Space.
Wow.
I love it so much.
High praise.
It's a very silly, I don't know if you got a chance to see it. I think you'll laugh your fucking ass off. It's insane.
I didn't realize it was a Steven Spielberg Presents.
Oh yeah, Steven Spielberg originally was going to direct it. He lost interest in directing it. They gave it to Joe Dante. Joe Dante has said it's maybe the only movie he's ever made that, like, from conception to the screen is exactly what he wanted out of it.
This is the era before rom-coms, and it's funny. Of this era, I watched Flesh and Bone. The way that she's in so many Dennis Quaid films.
Yeah. Well, because they kept wanting to work together, because they also do DOA, which is a remake of a film noir, and it's very silly.
America's Sweetheart has not been born yet. She is just being cast as like pretty blonde girly next to like action guy.
And it's tough too, because you're seeing her in situations that like, because of who she becomes, you don't want to see her in.
So, the breakthrough really is When Harry Met Sally. Like,
yes,
1989, it just fucking, goes off like a firework, to steal from Katy Perry. It's just, this cultural touchstone that today still, it's regarded as one of the best rom-coms of all time. I just saw it for the first time last week. I think it holds up incredibly well.
Yeah.
Written by Nora Ephron, who is a genius, and directed by Rob Reiner, who also, the movie is just beautiful.
Yeah. The brilliant thing Nora Ephron did is she wrote Harry as Rob Reiner, which I think made Rob Reiner's job incredibly easy in directing. In fact, she even said that she stole a line from Rob Reiner that Rob Reiner took out of the movie, which was while she was writing the script at one point, he called her and they're having a conversation and he said, how women put on like a layer of foundation when they get up in the morning? I have that, but it's depression. And Rob Reiner took it out of the film. But I think Nora Ephron was just so smart in crafting these characters to really fit these. And Meg Ryan wasn't the first choice for her character. Billy Crystal certainly wasn't. Tom Hanks passed on the movie. And initially he said it was because he didn't think the Harry character that there was that much there. But truthfully, Rita Wilson years later said that the reason he didn't do it was because he was just getting out of his first divorce and he was so happy and he didn't understand why Harry wouldn't be happy to be divorced. And I think that's such a funny Tom Hanks anecdote. But it's just so funny and so sharp. And yes, obviously, I think in the year 2023, we can acknowledge that men and women, straight men, straight women can have platonic relationships, no problem. But I do think the way things were at the time, that was a true can men and women, can there ever be a true friendship between men and women?
Well, I saw the movie with good friend of the pod and former guest Samantha Stallard.
I was hoping you would say Sam. Yeah. Hi, Sam.
And she was like, no, men and women can't be friends. They can't be friends. Nope.
You know what? Billy Crystal agrees with her. So.
And the word sharp is exactly right. Because the reason why the movie stands up is just because Nora Ephron's writing is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Everything, even though it's kind of quaint just because it's for the time, but not in ways that it's life just isn't that way anymore. You can't call someone up and be like, oh, this movie's on what channel?
Right.
That doesn't happen anymore. And so in that sense, there are things that are silly Billy. Of course, no one's dropping someone off in New York City at Washington Square Park and being like, bye, girly. That
forever.
Yeah,
see you never.
But the men and women politics and I think the heartbreak certainly
It felt good in a place like that though, I gotta say.
Really did. I will say Nora Ephron and Rob are so silly. I'm like, no one's going to the Met having a nice quiet time, okay? It's beautiful. The shots, everything is just so beautiful. All I was thinking was movies just don't look this beautiful anymore. They're not shot this well.
They're
don't lit that well.
Oh my God. You're preaching.
Honey,
say it on the mountain, Louis.
Ever heard of some mise en scène, honey?
Yeah.
There are so many beautiful frames just, from Carrie, what the fuck's her name?
Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
I didn't mean to yell that at you.
Yeah.
Fisher, God damn it.
All the dinner scenes with Carrie Fisher and them being girlfriends are so fun, so easy. But again, also just really beautiful.
Bruno Kirby, R.I.P. So hot.
So hot.
Hot.
I want chunky sweaters. All the time.
I also, just to give a shout out, because I do think Nora Ephron deserves every bit of praise that we are giving her. On the flip side of that, Nora Ephron has also really credited it to both Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. And and specifically Meg Ryan, that she was able to like see these small things.
There's a moment in When Harry Met Sally where Meg Ryan is upset because her old boyfriend is getting married and she's totally hysterical. And I put this one line into it. It is a nothing line. I need a Kleenex. It's right in the middle of it. And it's a line that I knew was funny, but it wasn't like blinking, hello, I'm a funny line or anything. And Meg just hit it out of the park. And that's the moment when you think, oh my God, because it's an actor that really, especially when you're talking about a comedy, something could be funny on the page, but it is not going to be funny if the actor doesn't know how to convert it.
Hi.
You all right?
Come on in. I'm sorry to call you so late.
It's all right.
I need a Kleenex.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I couldn't watch it. That movie for years. I couldn't watch it for years. My freshman year communications class, Com 101, our big project at the end of it was each student or groups of students were assigned a scene, and we had to write a report on the body language of characters, which, by the way, is a complete fucking pseudoscience. It's not a real thing. And I had the wedding scene, the argument they have at the wedding, and I had to watch that scene so many times that I convinced myself I hated this movie and I couldn't watch it. So literally until last week when I rewatched it for the first, I had not seen it since college. And let me tell you, I've been depriving myself.
Yeah. Yeah. The emotions are just like really earned. It doesn't feel like manipulative or trite. Like it really, like they have other love interests that feel very real. And, you know, like and it's crazy. I was like, oh, what are these straights going to get up to? But no, it's really affecting. It feels really good to watch. So yeah, that's 89. She gets a Golden Globe nomination. You know, she just, it like you said, the blueprint, it is the blueprint for, you know, all rom-coms to come. She finally does work with Tom Hanks, though, the next year in Joe versus the Volcano.
Yes.
Which is a deeply silly movie.
It's very, very silly. The great thing about that movie is everything else is so silly, but it's also so deep because it's really a movie about philosophy. It's really a movie, like, it's about learning to live and love yourself and love the things around you and, like, paying attention to the things around you. And she gets to play 3 roles in it, which is also so much fun.
Is she the, like, secretary in his office?
Yep. She's the secretary. She's the like...
Beverly Hills girl.
She's the Beverly Hills girl, she's Nicole Kidman. And every time I watch it, I'm like, this is Nicole Kidman. And she's the love interest in the end. Yeah.
So what did you do before you signed on with Daddy?
I was an advertising librarian for a medical supply company.
Oh, I have no response to that.
Yeah, no spoilers, but the volcano doesn't win.
The volcano is the friends we made along the way.
Up next is The Doors. I didn't watch this.
I'd seen it before, and I did rewatch it for this. We don't have to talk about it. It's a flop, and it's a flop all around. It's, you know, a great Val Kilmer performance, but it's not a good movie.
Okay, great. Prelude to a Kiss. Now, we've talked about this before, haven't we?
Okay, so Prelude to a Kiss is, I think, now tied with Beetlejuice for, like, most mentions on the show, because we have talked about Prelude to a Kiss in our Stanley Tucci episode.
Kathy Bates.
In our Kathy Bates episode, in our Body Swap episode, and finally we've hit somebody who is a main character in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, Prelude to a Kiss. I watched it for Tucci. I didn't rewatch it for Bates or Body Swap. I did rewatch it for this, and it's maybe not Meg Ryan's best performance, I will say. She's doing something. It's fine. But, like, I like this movie a lot. Like, it's so meaningful. And then, like, to find out... So, Prelude to a Kiss, for those of you who do not listen to the show regularly, is a movie about an ultra liberal woman and a kind of conservative man played by Alec Baldwin. Meg Ryan's the woman, and they fall in love, and she's like kooky spiritualism, and he's like kind of very practical.
It's
and
Dharma and Greg.
It's Dharma and Greg. Literally 40 fucking minutes into the movie, like a third or maybe even a half of the movie is gone. At their wedding, an old man wanders in and kisses Meg Ryan, and they switch bodies. And Alec Baldwin is left with Meg Ryan with an old man in her body who wants nothing more for him but than for him to fuck her. Like, and that's the thing that I love about this movie is I keep thinking about like, no, he really wants hot young Alec Baldwin. So sorry that Alec Baldwin's a terrible person because he's very hot in this movie.
Yeah, hate that.
And Meg Ryan is left in the body of this old man who's dying. And to find out that the play that it's based on, which Alec Baldwin was in the original cast, she was not. Mary Louise Parker, I believe, was the original role, which I think she maybe would have been better. I'll be perfectly honest. To find out that the play like itself was kind of an allegory for AIDS, and that the director then died a couple years or slightly more than a couple years later of complications due to AIDS. And to think about it as like a parable about a man who has to learn to, because Alec Baldwin, you know, is freaked out by Meg Ryan. She goes to like live with her parents, and he like starts cohabitating with this old man. And it's like this parable of like, can you love somebody who is dying, who you maybe are no longer sexually attracted to, but have all these strong feelings for. And I think the movie is maybe not given enough credit for that, for the deeper analysis. But like on the surface level of talking about Meg Ryan, she is maybe hamming it up a little bit as an old man in Meg Ryan's body.
I want to have your baby. I want your baby inside me.
You don't want babies. Don't you remember?
Sweetie.
No. You never say that. Or puppy puppy or chop chop. You don't drink now. Rita used to drink like a fish. You're not using salt.
Peter.
You're a communist or socialist, whatever you are. You don't defend the social order in Jamaica or anywhere.
You need to take a hot bath and breathe life in. The world is a glorious place to live.
1983, though, is a big year because Sleepless in Seattle.
Yes.
This is her...
That's my horses joke earlier. Horses, 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 horses.
Yeah. Reteaming with Tom Hanks. Another movie I had never seen. I could not believe
when were you born? I mean, I know I'm older than you, but like...
I was born in 1988.
End meeting.
Listen, we're meeting people now who are born in like 2001. Like, it's disgusting.
Literally, I met a news anchor who was like graduated college like 3 years ago, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And also on top of that, I was like, oh no, I will never look like a man. You look like a man. I do not. I will always just look like a pile of dough.
You know what I also hate? And I think it's deeply embarrassing when like people have like the year they were born tattooed on their body. I'm like, sweetie, there's nothing cute about like being born in 2002.
Yeah, no. Ugh. You missed 9/11. Get out.
Yeah. Anyway, Sleeps in Seattle. Another Nora Ephron joint. Yeah, I didn't realize that they don't meet until the end of the movie. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Also, she plays a journalist, so she's preparing her entire collegiate career for this. Also, LOL, the things that journalists, quote unquote, did in the 90s. Just hanging out, figuring out, you know, a story about a guy on the radio, maybe. I don't know. Have nothing else to do.
She like literally abuses her position to find out where he lives.
She said, Alexa, show me men who are recently like widowed in the Chicago area. I think for me, this is the lesser of the triumvirate of like, when people think of Meg Ryan, they think of this movie, When Harry Met Sally, and You've Got Mail. That's kind of
Yes.
like the trifecta. I think this is the lesser work of them, just because the story is perhaps a little bit too ridiculous for me to like glom onto. Like, this poor man is grieving his wife who has died, and
it's only been
a year.
A year, yeah.
Like, babe, I broke up with my ex a year ago, and I'm still going through it. Okay,
Right.
And he lives in the neighborhood next down. Okay, like, he's not dead. This man's wife is dead.
Weirdly in Seattle. Who
Yeah,
knows?
it's so crazy, so crazy. Yeah, so his wife dies, and so him and his son move to Seattle to like start afresh and like, you know, just try and like get away from like the hauntings of her everywhere. And also, kids are so crazy.
Yeah. On the DL, like, I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard that Nora Ephron got rid of the kid because she didn't like him. But I've also heard that Tom Hanks got the original kid fired because he was too disruptive, and they replaced him with this kid. And Nora Ephron was like, yeah, I guess that's fine, but like, also, I don't like his face.
That is a gag.
Yeah.
This kid I thought was pretty good.
I thought he was fine. Yeah.
Not mad at him.
I love, I so deeply love An Affair to Remember.
Okay.
The fact that it's like such a big part of the plot of
Yes.
this movie, I will like, but also like Rita like spoils the whole, like, if you've not seen Affair to Remember, don't watch Sleepless in Seattle first, because Rita will literally just tell you the whole thing. But also, I love Rosie O'Donnell as
yes,
the best friend.
The best friend.
I was listening to him talk about how much he loved his wife, and suddenly I was crying. It's like what happens when I watch those phone company ads. I don't have to see the whole thing, just the part where the daughter gives the mother the refrigerator with a big red bow on it.
Yes, the Polaroid commercial. 2 5-year-olds at their grandfather's birthday party.
They're making the album.
Oh, with all the glue. That kills me. You should write something about this.
The original director of this movie was Nick Castle. If you don't remember that name, it is Nick Castle, film director, but also the original Michael Myers from Halloween.
Huh!
Yeah, and he went on to direct rom-coms and whatnot, and he didn't like the way Nora Ephron was taking the script. He thought she was making it too silly, and when he left the project, they offered it to her to direct.
Wow.
So, yeah, we could have gotten Michael Myers' Sleepless in Seattle.
That's kind of a gag. Also, the previously mentioned Flesh and Bone. You know, the mid-90s were really just, she was riding high. You know,
I do want to mention, we don't often talk about projects past on. Occasionally we'll bring it up, but it's usually not a big, but she was offered Silence of the Lambs, and she thought the script was too scary and dark and didn't want to do it.
You know, you hit and miss. You never know what's it's just what appeals to you at the time. And you have a certain reasoning process that goes along when you're, so I never regret really anything, but I felt like it was just so dark of an arena, and I just didn't want to be in that for a few months. I didn't want to just then. And you know what? It probably would not have been a hit if I was in it. You know, it was such a great movie.
She certainly doesn't have like the severity of
There's
Jodie.
Jodie Foster it's such a mannered performance, and I don't know if Meg Ryan would have. I think she would have been fine.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have been able to like get to the like kind of heart of Clarice Starling.
Yeah. I mean, the heart and also like the hardness. Like, she's not like a very, I don't think of Meg Ryan as a very like anchored performer. I think of her as like kind of like this dancer. She's kind of always like floating and like kind of, you know, more of a fanciful vibe, if you will.
Tell me, Dr. Lecter, who is Buffalo Bill?
I say that, but also will eat my fucking words, because the next year she has 2 more films. The first one is IQ, which is a ridiculous movie. Oh my God.
I knew somebody in college whose favorite movie was IQ, and I've not seen it since college, and I rewatched for this, and I was like, oh, I hope that person hasn't like died or something, like hasn't like killed somebody or like
psychopathic behavior, because this movie is like, what would happen if we made a movie about Albert Einstein's niece and it's a rom-com.
Right.
But she only likes smart guys. But then she meets a dumb guy, but he's actually secretly smart. And
he proceeds to, it's funny, the director was like, Tim Robbins fought me every day because he kept being like, I don't think she would fall in love with somebody who lied to her so much. And he clearly didn't understand that was the point of the movie. And it's like, I actually think Tim Robbins is right.
Yes. So there's that movie, which is whatever. But then there's also When a Man Loves a Woman, which is a very lovely tearjerker drama starring her and fucking Andy Garcia, who is... my God.
When he blows into that bar, the first scene, he's just like, do you want to pick up my laundry? Like,
yeah. Can I make you a carrot cake? With cream cheese?
Oh my God. And like, they're already married in the scene. Like, they're having a game, like, because this guy is like hitting on Meg Ryan, and Andy Garcia sees it and he walks in. But when he says, like, she's like, and what do you do for me? And he's like, I'll bake you something. And he's like, well, what will you bake me? And he's like, I bet you love chocolate.
I'm allergic to chocolate.
Do you like carrot cake?
Very much.
Well then.
Cream cheese frosting?
My specialty.
So fucking hot.
They have sizzling chemistry.
Yeah.
But also this is a very dramatic turn for her. She plays an alcoholic, and God, there are some deeply affecting scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I think they're very good. There's only one good child actor, and her name is Tina Margarino. What the fuck's her name?
No, I think it's Margarino. Is it? I mean, whatever it is, that was close enough.
Tina Margarino. Yeah, Tina Margarino.
Yeah. Did you also clock who the other kid is?
Yeah.
May Whitman?
May Whitman.
May Whitman. Yes. Wow.
Those are the two titans of child actors.
Yeah.
I love both of those children so much. Those actresses are brilliant. I want them in everything. And as the kids of Andy Garcia and Meg Ryan, genius, just genius.
So that movie came out in 94. I remember my mom renting it, so it was probably 95 because it used to actually take time between theatrical presentation and video. And that scene where she falls through the glass of the shower haunts me. Like, I still think about that. And I hadn't thought about it in years, but rewatching it and seeing it happen, I was like, oh, I remember I can picture my my childhood living room and seeing that. I think it's a very effective movie. It's certainly not my favorite, but I think she's great in it. And I think the other strength of the film is that I think the compulsion when you're making a movie about somebody who has a disease like alcoholism is that you make it just about the alcoholism, but it's an interesting turn in that it's also a movie about how it is affecting the people around her, specifically her family, and what it's like to be a family member of somebody who has, is suffering. Yeah. And I think it does a really good job without ever painting Andy Garcia as some sort of hero.
Oh, yeah.
He's certainly not. He makes mistakes. I think there's a lot of really powerful stuff in it. I think there's something that keeps me at a slight distance about it. So it's kind of like a 3.5 star movie for me more than but I really love her performance, especially. Yeah. And she changes a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
Yeah, totally. I really like it a lot. The next year, she has 2 more films again. She produces French Kiss. Restoration. She does a little period piece. And again, it's, I can't state this enough. These movies are making money, honey. Yeah. In the hundreds of millions of dollars range. Even though people don't maybe remember French Kiss as much, it was hitting back in 1995.
I say if you've not seen French Kiss in a while, go back and watch it.
Oh.
I really like it. It's
All
really
that?
It's really cute.
I mean, this year is, a critic called her the soul of romantic comedy. In 1985, she was winning awards. She won the Harvard Hasty Pudding Woman of the Year award. People magazine named her one of the 50 most beautiful women of the world. She won the Women in Film Crystal Award, whatever the fuck that is. So she, this is like the peak of her. And I don't want to compare, but I do think compared to LOL, I don't want to compare, but compared to, but she had the softest edges of the quote unquote America's Sweethearts.
Yeah.
Her movies were just warm and soft and cuddly. And like, even, something like When a Man Loves a Woman, which ridiculous title, LOL. But it's, even though it has like some of the sharp edges, like she is an alcoholic, by the end, you are still like safe and sound. Everything is resolved.
Yeah.
And she certainly wasn't, I think after this, like after 95, she's trying to like push a little bit. She starts getting into like these war movies and stuff. But I think she was probably like the most middle of the road, safe, girly doing these rom-coms and like America's Sweetheart type movies.
And I think they were fun for her. And I think that's maybe something that like is not talked about enough, but like, I don't know, there's something to be said about loving your job. And I know people will be like, well, maybe she took the easy way out by mostly doing rom-coms, but like she was having a good time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like being like, I'm good at this thing. I'm going to do this thing. And like, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think also
isn't that the goal? Like, aren't we supposed to love what we do?
I think also, I mean, there's interviews with Tom Hanks and being like, listen, it was just easy to work with her. No drama, like learn your lines, show up. Like she was so, even though, she, this is before, we'll get to it later, but like she was not in the tabloids. Right. She was just like, And
honestly, like, as much of reputation as Tom Hanks has as like America's Dad, I think that's how Tom Hanks really likes it. Like, I think he's kind of a persnickety, like, person. And so to have her be such a professional, really,
Yeah, but that's also a good like parallel though, because like Tom Hanks, by virtue of being a man, he knew how to like flex the muscles to like get what he wanted and build the career he wanted. And I mean, of course, like he wanted to be an actor. But she, certainly like produced a little here and there, but like wasn't commanding the power that she probably could have,
Yeah.
And I think, also clearly like Tom Hanks has continued to work, done all sorts of things, made movies for other people, still is doing his own movies, whereas Meg has not been, and I think there's a lot there. Like media was not scrutinizing her or him the way they were her. So yeah, it's fucked up. So after 95, we get Courage Under Fire with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Another Southern gal. This movie is for America.
It's wild because it's just not really her movie. I mean, she's the lead woman in it, but also like, I hate to say it, it could have been anyone because it's not like, and I love Denzel and I think he's great and I think he's doing good work in the movie, but like it's his movie and I don't know. I such conflicting feelings about Courage Under Fire. I also don't think it's a great movie, but I think they're both pretty good in it, but like she could be anyone. It's a thankless role.
It is a thankless role. I would only watch this movie if you want to see Lou Diamond Phillips shirtless working out.
Yeah, and good, and like really, he's good in it as well too. Yeah.
I will say, very sad, and the horrors of war is bad. Fucking
bad, truly bad.
Let's not fucking do that. 97, big year for Child Louis. Big year.
Are we going to take a journey to the past?
Honey, heart don't fail me now, okay? She is the titular Anastasia.
She is. She was not killed in that basement.
No. Thank goodness for Dimitri. Anastasia, which is Don Bluth. It's a huge hit. Opposite of John Cusack, who plays Dimitri. Now I guess technically she's a Disney princess, but for a long time she was not. She was out there on her own.
Peppermint?
An oil for my hands.
Yes. Yeah. I spilled the bottle. The carpet was soaked, and it forever smelled of peppermint. Like you. I used to lie there on that rug, and oh, how I missed you when you went away. When you came here, to Paris.
That same year, Addicted to Love comes out. This is the era where they decide to straighten her bangs and make her edgy. This is also like, I feel like the late 90s, heroin chic was all the rage.
Yeah. Yep.
Eyeshadow.
She looks like a fucking raccoon in this movie. It's not even eyeshadow at that point. It's just like, she looks like fucking Daryl Hannah Blade Runner, just a black streak over her eyes. Like,
because she's edgy.
Exactly. She rides a motorcycle.
It's an alleged black comedy.
Where are the jokes? Where are the jokes?
Yeah. Moving right the fuck along. I mean,
and like, I don't want to stay on it too much, but like, her and Matthew Broderick have no chemistry.
Well, no.
Just a chemistry void.
Yeah, no. Like, this movie, I don't know what company made this movie, but it feels like they were like, it's like really cool and hip right now. Indie movies about New York.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wants so badly to be like a cool, hip indie film, but it's just not.
It's actually disturbing. It's like the plot is literally Matthew Broderick is stalking his ex Kelly Preston because she's dating a Frenchman now in New York. And Meg Ryan is like, oh, that Frenchman is my ex and I want to fucking ruin his life. And she figures out Matthew Broderick is stalking them and it's like, let me help you stalk them. And there is a psychotic scene where they break into their apartment, they dress in their ex's clothes, and they fuck each other. And we're supposed to be like, ha ha ha, these people are great.
It's darkness. It fully is darkness.
Yeah.
The culture was not okay.
No.
And I will say, these are some dark years for Miss Ryan. We then get City of Angels in 1998. What is this movie?
I watched it a lot as a teen. And that's not good. It's a very, very loose remake. I would almost, it's like a remake of Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire, but it like kind of also just sort of exists as a side-by-side companion piece where that movie's like a deep movie about philosophy and life and death. This is like a schmaltzy romance about an angel who falls in love with a woman and like,
but also
it has to end in tragedy. And
I was gonna say, I was like, this movie is so fucking dark. The way, spoiler alert, he like decides to become a human for her.
Right.
And then she dies. Oh, like, what the fuck?
And not only, like, as a kid, I didn't think about, like, I was like, oh, that's so sad for him. There's a bit when she's dying and she's like, I fucked it up for you, essentially.
I screwed up.
No.
I wanted to show you everything.
You will.
You gave all this away. I'm sorry.
No. Oh, God, no, Meg. To touch you and to feel you. To be able to hold your hand right now. Do you know what that means to me? Do you know how much I love you?
And I was like, so not only is she dying, she's like dying full of guilt.
Yeah.
Because she's like, you had this.
You were an angel.
You were a perfect being. You were literally a perfect being. And you became incredibly flawed and human for me, and now bye. Like,
I feel like there are some freaks out there who'll be like, but the romance, they got one beautiful day together.
Yeah,
and that was enough.
And
but
I feel like that's what the movie wants you to think.
But that's not healthy, guys. Like we can't be living like this. Like that is a cruel, punishing thing for this writer, this movie to be like. And then they snatched her to show what? To prove what? That like, take a chance on love, but you might die. Like,
nothing is promised, Louis. Know that.
Not even when it's Nicolas Cage as an angel. What's the song in this movie? I don't want the world.
Yes. Which I sing to annoy Dan. Yeah. Because everything's made to be broken. Iris by Buffalo's Own, the Goo Goo Dolls.
Not Buffalo's Own.
Buffalo's Own.
And then also Sarah McLachlan's In the Arms of an Angel.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I'm not gonna knock the soundtrack. There's some bangers on it. Alanis Morissette's Uninvited, previously mentioned.
Yes.
But you're uninvited.
So good.
It's much better when Kelly Clarkson and Alanis do it, trust me.
Also, this year we get the final Tom Hanks, the final...
not final, but final rom-com.
Yes.
He shows up in another film with her later, but we'll get to that.
It's 1998's You've Got Mail, also directed by Nora Ephron.
Yeah.
It is the final leg in the rom-com like triangle perfecta of
maybe the last time a rom-com looked like a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd agree with that.
Instead of looking like a commercial, instead of looking like To All the Boys I've Loved Before or whatever. Jesus. Yeah.
This is also Kevin, this is a retelling of a story that we have seen before, correct?
Yes. Well, I mean, famously The Shop Around the Corner, which is an older movie. We saw it for this show as In the Good Old Summertime, which is a musical with Judy Garland.
Yes.
And she's singing I Don't Care. And
that movie fucking slaps. Let me just say that.
It absolutely does. There's another musical that's based off it, which I've seen and now can't think of the name of.
She
Loves Me.
She Loves Me.
There it is. Yes. So it's an oft-told tale.
I will say that I think, this is also another one I had not seen. Let me say that.
Wow. Where are you? Like, have you never been near a TV during the holiday season? Have you?
I know for some people, white women really just do it for them. No, I'm kidding. I love white women. Samantha knows I love her deeply. But I don't know. I just a lot of these movies just felt like older people movies, and I just never got around to it. And I knew what it was about, and but I will say I think I prefer like the Venom in the summertime.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in this movie, they kind of don't like each other, and there's the business thing that's like really what's the fight about. It's not like, is it called In the Summertime? In the Heat of the Summertime?
In the Good Old Summertime.
And the Good Old Summertime, they like detest each other because of their manners, like it's a comedy of manners.
And it's the same in The Shop Around the Corner. Like I love You've Got Mail, I will say, but you're right. And I think this goes back to the thing I was talking about in the intro, which is that times were changing. And I think the press really needed somebody that was so clean. And I think this movie plays into that for both Tom Hanks and her. I mean, they have to show you like off the bat that like Tom Hanks, he works for a big like rich company, but also like he's so good with kids and he's got such a heart and whatnot.
Well, that's what Parker Posey's also there. Like
right.
She's there to like make him look good because she is so horrible.
Right. And it's the same with Greg Kinnear. And it's not that Greg Kinnear's horrible, but it's just that like he's so dead
And
in
ridiculous.
comparison to Meg Ryan. He's just so like, I love my old typewriters and oh, let's talk philosophy. And like Meg Ryan's like, no, I can't be tamed. I'm flighty and free.
Yeah.
And the thing that kills me always, and let me tell you, I love that ending, even though once again, Tom Hanks is absolutely gaslighting her. He is truly catfishing. He's like, what if this guy is fat? You don't like that. She gives up so easily. So like, it doesn't feel like there's a reason her store closes in the movie. And I never thought about that till this time. But I mean, obviously the economic pressure of being across the street from like a book warehouse, essentially.
Right.
And little do they know that Amazon was going to kill them both in a couple years anyways. But like, she's just like, the store's closed.
Yeah.
And then you get that moment when she's closing it of like remembering her mother and whatnot. And I was like, then why are you fucking giving up? Like, don't give up.
Yeah. I liked it. I think, there's some good banter here and there. Again, I think it like, I don't think the thrust of the movie is as strong as When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
I think because this is not, they don't dislike each other because of manners. They dislike each other because of business. And like they do this whole bit of like, it's, it's not personal, it's business. And like, oh, it's only not personal to you. Like, but that they have an extended like thing of like, him winning her over. And, it just doesn't feel as weighty. It doesn't feel like, oh, you've actually offended this person. And they kind of tell us in the movie, it's like, because they do this big blitz campaign where she's fighting and like, small stores, whatever. But they're like, well, we did all that and still like people aren't coming. And it's like, that's the tough reality. Like you can tell people everything up and down about like what's right and wrong. But like in the end, convenience and like cheap prices are going to win out. Like, there's no like moral, morality isn't going to like shift people to like give you more dollars. And that's just like a function of fucking capitalism that we are all crushed under, So I like You've Got Mail. I think they're very good. I think she's good, but perhaps not as, for me, affecting as at least When Harry Met Sally. Like When Harry Met Sally to me is like the top of that cake.
You were spying on me, weren't you? You probably rented those children.
Why would I spy on you?
Because I am your competition, which you know perfectly well, or you would not have put up that sign just around the corner.
The entrance to our store is around the corner, and there's no other way of saying that. It's not the name of our store, it's where it is. And you do not own the phrase around the corner.
What is that? What are you doing? What is that? What are you doing? You're taking all the caviar? That caviar is a garnish.
I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, I agree. Like, but I do really like it. And let me tell you, I still think that ending is really. My friend Sarah also, because I posted a clip of it on my Instagram, she like messaged and was like, I also miss when like Tom Hanks was sort of an object of desire in movies, and it's like,
okay, listen,
I agree with that.
When I was watching When Harry Met Sally, I was like, it is so crazy that normal humans got to be in movies before.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the other thing is like Meg Ryan's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but looks like a normal person in When Harry Met Sally. Like
every like person surrounding them looks like a normal human, is not super jacked, is not perfectly coiffed and plucked everywhere. It's just.
But it's okay because Jacob Elordi can get like 5 GQ pictures and everybody shuts down Twitter because they're like, oh my God, he's wearing glasses. Like
I know. And that's I haven't seen Jacob Elordi in anything, and so I don't know if he's a good actor or not. But yes, the point is yes. Like you used to be able to look like fucking Tom Hanks and be a love interest. You used to get to look like Billy Crystal and be a love interest. And and I'm not saying it's better or worse. Like and hot people will be fine. They've always have been. But like there is something about just being fucking charming and silly and goofy and like, just being a fucking star and not having anything to do with how hot you were. And
bad news for people like me who are both ugly and have no personality, but it's okay. I'll see you at the meetings.
I think as we head into the, 2000s, we're going to see, how that and the changing Hollywood affects Meg's career.
Yeah.
Let's zoom through a couple of these. So we talked a little bit about hanging up in our Diane Keat episode.
Yeah, I couldn't put myself through it again. I didn't watch it.
I watched Proof of Life. This is where she meets Russell Crowe and then starts her little dilly-dalliance with Russell.
Yeah. Though she has said, and I believe her, that is not what killed her marriage.
That was a really hard aspect of the whole thing. I mean, the tabloid aspect of it was really heartbreaking, and there was, for me, something I never really wanted to talk about in depth because I have a little boy, and because I feel like you can never really win in the way a tabloid tells a story. It's a very black and white, very overly simplistic moral universe that certain people's stories are supposed to fit in.
Yeah.
And they don't. It was a very unhealthy marriage, and it was pretty much not a happening marriage for a very long time. I probably should have left much earlier, and I was very sad, actually, that it all had to come apart in the way that it seemed to have, that it was never about another man. It was only about what my and Dennis's relationship just couldn't sustain,
I believe that because Dennis Quaid, struggling with alcoholism.
Right.
So yeah, lots of things. Proof of Life is a movie that's like, what if negotiating for hostages was an action movie?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it feels like it's setting up for like a bunch of sequels too. And it's like, it's like this didn't get it.
No.
Because it would have been Russell Crowe with romancing the wife of kidnapped people in every different country. Like
a deeply boring moving, TBH, and LOL at them making up a fake like Latin country. In 2001, I would say perhaps her last great rom-com, Kate and Leopold. Another movie I had not seen.
Funny.
Hugh Jackman, incredible.
I actually hadn't seen it until our good friends at the B-Side asked me to be on one of their very first episodes about Hugh Jackman. And so I watched it, but I've only ever seen the director's cut, which is the more fucked up version. It's about 7 minutes longer. And in it, you find out that Hugh Jackman is Liev Schreiber's ancestor, which means, which means that Meg Ryan's been fucking her like great grandson.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did they not think that through?
I don't know.
I'm glad someone at the studio said, we can cut that out. We can cut that out. I just will say Hugh Jackman was born to play like ancient Englishman.
And sell butter.
So charming selling that butter.
You know something? Nobody gives a rat's ass that you have to push the toast down twice. You know why? Because everybody pushes their toast down twice.
Not where I come from.
Oh, because where you come from, toast is the result of reflection and study.
Ah, yes, you mock me. But perhaps one day when you've awoken from a pleasant slumber to the scent of a warm brioche smothered in marmalade and fresh creamery butter, you will understand that life is not solely comprised of tasks, but tastes.
Say that again.
2003. This is a pivotal moment in her career. She makes In the Cut with Jane Campion. We've talked about this.
This has also been big on it. We talked a bit about it in the Mark Ruffalo episode. I cut it out of the Jennifer Jason Leigh episode, unfortunately, just because I didn't want that episode to be super long. And then we also talked about this on Screen Drafts because it's famously an F Cinema score. What a great movie. What a good fucking horny movie.
Horny.
Dangerous. She's naked. Mark Ruffalo's naked.
It's hot.
She plays a woman who finds out she's into some really fucking dangerous sex and she likes the excitement of it. And also, is her boyfriend a killer?
She's a dangerous woman, okay?
Yeah. There's a little red lighthouse in it.
This movie was really controversial and the media... This paired with the Russell Crowe dissolvement of her marriage really did a number on her reputation in the public's eye, within Hollywood. People thought she was crazy for making this movie. Why is Meg Ryan naked and having sex and fucking on camera?
Which on the opposite side of that, this movie was produced by Nicole Kidman. It originally was supposed to star Nicole Kidman. If Nicole Kidman had done this, nobody would have batted an eyelash. They would have been like, wow, Nicole's taking chances.
Yeah.
You know, and like famously in this period, she had a BBC interview where the presenter, who later went on to apologize, he actually just passed away in August, but like was rude to her because she wouldn't answer the questions the way that he wanted her to answer the questions.
Yeah, just like pointed and very accusatory and like misogynistic, you know? Like,
Now that you're wary of journalists, I mean, does it give you an insight into what they're after?
Now that I'm wary of them.
Yes, you are wary of journalists. You're wary of me. You're wary of the interview. You don't like being interviewed. You can see it in the way that you sit and the way you are. That you don't like doing it. So therefore, well, I mean, it's a perfectly easy question, a decent question to ask you about being a journalist. I mean, in other words, if you were me, what would you do now?
Well, just wrap it up.
It is at times a hard watch because there is a lot of like violence in this movie, but it is sexy, it's thrilling. Mark Ruffalo, by God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is Meg trying to do stuff. She's trying to, you know, do different things. It doesn't really work out. The next movie, Against the Ropes, which is flop all around, more angry, straightened hair. In The Land of Women in 2007, LOL, the way that my dumb millennial brain in high school was like, wow, Adam Brody is so crazy and so sexy. This movie is stupid. Men are not okay. The director writer of this certainly was going through something and was trying to like say something, but like let this woman have her cancer and not have to fucking like manic pixie dream boy with fucking Adam Brody.
And like, listen, you mentioned that in The Cut and like Against the Ropes are big disasters. She takes 3 years off.
Yeah.
And admittedly, like she just went through a divorce. She has a kid. It's around this time that she adopts her second kid. She adopts a daughter. But like, that's
the train is slowing.
Yeah.
You know, after this, we get
the signs are there.
2008's The Deal, which is a horrendous fake movie.
Yeah.
2008, you know, there's a lot, but it's a lot of crap. We get My Mom's New Boyfriend, The Women, which is perhaps the greatest filmed catastrophe I have ever fucking seen. The original The Women is cinematic gold. Cinematic, just glamour, beauty, like just so fucking good. Run to watch it, please. And this was supposed to be like the modern take of like girlies today. And I had already seen this movie, but I'd forgotten so much about it.
Same.
I knew we were 1 minute in horrendous trouble when like Annette Bening throws away one of like the most iconic lines from the original movie.
Yes.
There's a word for women like you, but you rarely see it out of kennels. The way she delivers it is horrendous, and it's like voiceover. So she's not even telling it to anyone. It's bad. And then she steps into Saks Fifth Avenue. The camera turns on her glasses, and it's like
Terminator vision.
Yeah,
but for sales.
I was like, oh, this movie doesn't respect women, doesn't understand women.
Which is wild because like it was a pet project of Diane English, who created Murphy Brown and like had developed it for years, and Julia Roberts wanted the lead role. And yeah.
I think she must have like had to sell her soul for the devil, like because she made so many concessions to like sex it up and make it like, you know, because that Terminator vision moment is like for who? The teenage boys who are gonna like trying to get in this movie. Like the movie doesn't work on any level. And then I will say also Meg, her character is nothing. Her character is nothing. Now it's really coming to a stop. We get Serious Moonlight in 2009. horrendous, trying.
It's hard to talk about Serious Moonlight because it's made under duress, essentially. Like, the Adrienne Shelley had been murdered. It was her final script. She had just had a huge hit with, an underground hit with Waitress, and had blown up. And Cheryl Hines, who was her friend, decided to direct. And I just wish, her husband produced it. And I just wish somebody had been like, guys, the script wasn't finished. It's clearly not ready to be filmed. And Cheryl Hines, like, this should not be your directorial debut. The movie looks bad. It's a personality void, which is really sucks because it's Timothy Hutton again with Meg Ryan. They have chemistry because they're both in French Kiss together. And then poor Kristen Bell, like, I don't know what she's doing in this movie. And then Justin Long, like, what, like, yeah.
I think when like movies don't know what their tone is, they just call themselves a black comedy, and it's like that does not make your movie okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see her directorial debut in Ithaca.
Yeah. So okay, huge gap. 2009, Serious Moonlight comes out. Meg Ryan. Done with she does a pilot in like 2013, I think.
Oh, right, for NBC.
Yeah, it doesn't get picked up. She does a couple, like 5 episodes of Web Therapy with Lisa Kudrow, who she met when she did the Diane Keaton movie. But like for the most part, Meg Ryan's like, I'm raising kids. I'm not doing this. I'm out of it. She decides to make a movie out of Ithaca. It's based on the book The Human Comedy, which had previously been made into a film in the 40s, I think. And she said this novel brought her a lot of comfort during her divorce. And that's really fucked up because it's truly a novel about loss. It's a movie about a boy who takes a job working at a telegraph company during the early years of World War II. His older brother, who in this movie is played by her son, Jack Quaid, goes off to war, and Meg Ryan is the mother of these 2 kids, and she's kind of in a depressive state because her husband, played by Tom Hanks, has passed away, but she keeps seeing him around the house. And yeah, it could be better. It is a very much a first movie. It's also like one of those movies where you can tell a lot of people were like, yeah, it's the 40s. Make it very sepia, make it very classic looking. But she surrounded her cast with great, like Hamish Linklater's in it. And it's a really good cast, but it's really kind of a movie. Which bummed me out because I was like, yay, Meg Ryan directing.
I thought a fellow would never cry when he got to be grown up. But that's when you start finding out about things.
There will always be pain in this world, Homer. And a good man will seek to take the pain out of things.
So that's in 2015. She is in some archival footage in Top Gun Maverick last year. And that gets to now with what happens later. Her second directorial, outing, which we'll talk about in our fast forward. But like, she basically said, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I need to figure my own shit out away from Hollywood.
She's not getting the roles she wants. Nobody will accept her outside of the role. And also, like, I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't think it's a negative thing. Anybody can do whatever they want to their body. Like, she's clearly had some plastic surgery. That's fine. If you fucking Google anything about her, if you Google Meg Ryan, like, there's like a billion things about her plastic surgery, and it is toxic and awful. And she clearly did it because there was pressure for her to like stay forever fucking 25.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, we're so obsessed. We're so obsessed with the way people look, and it's scary and terrifying. And it makes me feel for her in a way. And like, for all I know, she maybe got that plastic surgery because she wanted it. But like, in my heart of hearts, I think it was a calculated decision. And like, now people are like, ugh, how could she do that? And it's like, she did it once again, like I was saying, for you. Like,
yeah. I think she's talked about like how there was just no winning. There was no, she had an interview in the New York Times Magazine a couple years ago, and she was like, I couldn't do anything right. And I had to take time off to, raise my kids and also just like figure out who I was outside of Hollywood.
Right.
And I'm glad she did. Like we mentioned, she has her son, Jack Quaid, who's now a very famous actor. Her daughter, is it something True? Daisy True.
Daisy True.
She said there's no coincidence. Like, she's like, this is the child I was supposed to have. Like, they have a very strong connection. She had been in a long on and off relationship with John Mellencamp. They were engaged. They ended it in 2019. And she, in that same interview, she's like, sometimes I just think like, maybe, not every relationship has to last forever. And maybe like there is not like a partner for everyone for a long time, that lasts forever. And I'm like, fuck yeah, girl. Like, I love that.
And also, big supporter of the Democratic Party, fundraisers and whatnot. That's sort of her charity of choice is politics. I've heard her talk about Me Too and everything as well. And yeah, she's never been nominated for an Oscar. She's racked up a bunch of Golden Globe nominations, but never won one. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy that she's such a staple in our lives, but like no one's ever felt to like give her an award for it.
Yeah, I feel, it's a little bit bizarre for the cultural impact she made. It kind of speaks to like how little we value, stories that are feminine in nature. Yeah. And I mean this like emotional, love stories that don't center men. And, she was never like the sex kitten. She was never,
and she could be sexy, but you're right. It was never about that.
Right. And I think in ways that like other, America's Sweetheart type actresses did, and good for them, like great. But like her sex appeal was never part of the equation of her success. And I think when Hollywood became even more and more obsessed with bodies, they did not know what to do with her. And, as such, kind of threw her out. And she has been and continues to scratch to, make what she wants to make now. And for that, I say bravo. Gavin, why don't we get into our picks?
Absolutely.
Let's start with our 1-star reviews. Well, Gavin, there are some movies we could talk about, huh?
Yeah, there's unfortunately more than even a couple of really, really bad films in here. And we try and keep it positive on the show, but like, we're not going to lie to you.
No.
Some of these are,
the reviews are in fact mixed. I'll go first. There are some hard watches, some movies I deeply don't like. The Women is truly an astoundingly horrid film. But I think for me, the true 1-star is, what year is this? 1997's Addicted to Love. I don't know why it's called this. I don't know why the
cachet of the song, of the Robert Palmer song. That's it. That's it, baby.
Everything that they're selling about this movie is a fucking lie. Because, so this movie was directed by Griffin Dunn, written by Robert Gordon, stars Meg Ryan and Matthew Broderick, Kelly Preston, and a French guy whose name I cannot pronounce.
Well, we're going to get emails. That's a lie. We never get emails.
The story starts off on Matthew Broderick. He's in a small town. He's like an astronomer or some shit. He's always looking at the stars. His girlfriend, Kelly Preston, comes home and she's like, I'm moving to New York because I want more out of life. And he's like, but what about no? And
that's accurate.
And the only funny part of this movie is she's like, well, bye. I'm out of here. I thought that was funny. Fuck him. Follow your heart. But then, like, some sort of fucking Batman, he travels to New York and is I think, squatting in a dilapidated apartment across the street from where she now lives.
You're absolutely correct.
He has brought in some of his astronomy stuff, telescopes and whatnot, to spy on her. Has set up some sort of technology to broadcast. So he's videotaping her and broadcasting said videotape onto a wall so he can watch her everyday life as a movie.
Well, see, he learned it from the telescopes.
Right, that's how that works. And if this sounds like a horror film, it's because it is. His ex-girlfriend has, moved in with this hot French guy. They're like seemingly like deeply in love, always fucking, always like having a great time. There's a mysterious figure on a motorcycle, and they're so like mysterious. And this person, I don't know, fucking falls through the roof into this dilapidated apartment with Matthew Broderick, takes off their helmet. It's Angry Bangs Meg Ryan. And
it's very that.
As Gavin mentioned earlier, she is the ex of the French guy. She's like, move over, bud. I'm here to ruin his life. And he's like, no, I'm here to ruin her life. And then they decide, wait a minute, let's do it together.
What is all this stuff?
Bugging equipment? Cactus.
Bugging? What, like listening bugging? Bugging who?
Take a wild guess.
Why? Why would anyone want to do that?
Because I want to hear what goes on in there. Don't you want to hear what goes on in there?
Why do you not?
Why not?
Because that would be an invasion of her privacy.
Excuse me, Mr. Video.
That's not a video. It's a camera obscura. It's pure light. I'm not spying. I just want to be with her.
Well, that's completely different.
And then what ensues is like kind of a Mean Girls, like let's ruin Regina George type thing, where they try and like make the French guy look guilty of cheating. None of it works. Obviously, Meg Ryan and Matthew Broderick are supposed to fall in love in the end. It's so convoluted. I think Meg Ryan is actively bad, does not know how to be this like edgy, hard girl with her bangs and makeup. She's very like, you don't know me, okay? My emotions are not real. And Matthew Broderick's like, no, I love you and you love me.
But don't you understand, Louis? She was a boy. He was a girl. Could you make it any more obvious?
Any more obvious? I can't. And Matthew Broderick is also like sporting his like 5 o'clock shadow the entire movie. And it's like, everyone was trying to be edgy. It's 1998. Like, everyone's trying to be cool.
I would say it's completely miscast if I understood the reason it was even made in the first place or written.
I don't know. I don't know who could have done this movie, because there's extended sequences where they are both like being cute and throwing popcorn at each other while the movie of their collective ex-lovers is playing on the background of this squatter apartment that they're in. It's vile. It's bad. It's, I can't remember a single time where I laughed. There's, and in the middle of it is Meg Ryan, who is like deeply, deeply doesn't know what she's doing. I couldn't believe watching that. I couldn't believe it. It's almost as if like being addicted to love. Like we're gaslit into believing like this is what rom-com, like it's such a rom-com off the rails. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to learn here. There's also like kind of like gaggy, like Looney Tunes fade to blacks.
Yeah, it's edited within an inch of its life in a bad way.
Yeah, it's horrendous. I couldn't believe it.
Great choice, especially because if you had picked the women, I was going to pick Addicted to Love. And since you have picked Addicted to Love, I can talk about the women.
All right.
The women, we talked a lot about it earlier, but essentially it's about Meg Ryan, who is she's sort of a jack of all trades, but she's a chef essentially.
Is she a chef?
I don't really understand. I can't tell what her job is. Like she's like a party thrower, an event planner who also makes all of her own food and gardens herself. And through a bunch of her gossipy friends, she finds out her husband is having an affair with Eva Mendes, and her life falls apart because of that. She decides to get a divorce. These are all broad strokes, and the only reason it's broad strokes is because that's all that's left in this movie. See, the thing about the original The Women, directed by George Cukor, you're going to keep hearing us say his name, came out in 1939. The role of women in society in 1939 was very different, and I'm not defending it in any way, but it's based off a play, and essentially it's a play about status, about how like women exist only to fall in love and marry a man who can take care of them. And if that man strays, it's something you did wrong.
Right.
And you need to figure out like what's going on. It's sort of like we have to pause all women until we can figure out what's going on. And
famously, no men in the movie.
Right.
All.
None. It's very dialogue heavy. It's quick. It's quick-witted. It's like, I don't want to say it's catty, but it's catty in a very fun way. And it's bitchy, and like it's delightful and sumptuous, and it's all black and white except for the famous fashion show scene, which is in color. And it has maybe one of the worst endings of it. Like if it were made any later, the ending would have been changed so she doesn't go back to her husband, but she does. We talked about the original just a little bit in our Joan Crawford episode, because she plays the Eva Mendes role in the original.
And she's so good.
She's so fucking good. This version, like in updating the women, it's unupdatable. It's just unupdatable. And so what it does is it removes that element, because women don't strive for that anymore. Women are allowed to be people. They're allowed to have jobs. We recognize them as fully formed human beings, as we should have in the 30s. But like,
I think this movie doesn't know the role of women. Like, if it would have
they come off shallow and harsh, and like they have no aspirations. Like they're all automatons who only care about shopping at Saks.
Right. But I think like, if it would have leaned into that and been like, these 5 women only care about shopping and being shallow, upper class white bitches, we can say something about those type of women. But they want to make a movie about all women. And so they need Annette Bening to be like, sweetie, no one ever has said that they don't like Saks. But at the same time, she needs to be the high-powered executive of the quote-unquote smart Vogue.
She has to have that moment where she explains to Meg Ryan's daughter about, like, sex is, it's not great at first, but, it's something that all women do. I just don't... There's so much... And Meg Ryan, as I said, I don't understand her character. Like, I don't understand what her character wants. She doesn't want this man. She seems to have a perfect life without this man. And the idea, like, this movie also follows the Cukor plan of there are no men in the film until the baby is born at the end of the movie, and it's a boy. But I think the thing that about this movie without any men, like, already feels like this kind of utopia. And so like this drama she's having with Steven, who wants to divorce her for Eva Mendes, it doesn't matter, and it truly doesn't seem to change her life at all. And what's even wilder is, in the original film, the divorce used to be very difficult. You would have to literally move to Reno for like 6 months to obtain a quote unquote quickie divorce. Now you can do it in a day. And so they have to remove that plotline. And because they have to remove that plotline, Eva Mendes' character disappears from the film.
Yep. It's the movie actively fights its own existence. Like she talks to her mom, Candice Bergen, about like, the mom is like old school. So she's like, oh, like, this will be so devastating for your reputation. And Meg Ryan's like, oh, what is this, a 1930s movie?
I can't fake it, Mom. I can't be anywhere near him right now.
Then this is what I think we should do. It's spring break. We'll go away for a couple of weeks. There's nothing like a heavy dose of a man's mistress to make him miss his wife.
What do you think this is? Some kind of 1930s movie? That's ridiculous.
Can I remind you of something? You have a daughter. Just like I did, this is not just about you.
Like, ostensibly trying to make a gag about, like, haha, we're making a remake. But, like, yeah, exactly. What are we doing
What are we doing here?
Guys, like, you are a successful person. Like, it would make sense if, you know, this was a woman who was like, if I get divorced, I get nothing and my life will radically change. But this movie wants to have it all. This movie wants to be like, women are powerful and don't need men, but also are catty bitches who only talk about men and whose lives will like be ruined because of men. It's even Annette Bening's character who like wants to be smart and this and that is a bitch to the younger women at her office, you know, and doesn't take them seriously.
I mean, Candice Bergen's character who spends almost the whole movie worried about her appearance, but also being like, ugh, I heard this person got plastic surgery. And then there's a whole extended bit about her actually having plastic surgery.
It's the opposite of sharp writing. This is the anti Nora Ephron movie. This movie wants what Nora Ephron has.
And just on a technical front, and I don't want to spend too much longer shitting on this film, this was not the right film to be, much like Serious Moonlight was not the right film for Cheryl Hines to launch her directing career. This was not the right film for Diane English to launch her directing career. It more often than not looks like a sitcom. Characters are often overlit in the center of the frame. Like, it's so flat, the camera never moves. It's an unpleasant watch because you're spending time with these terrible people and you have nothing to look at.
Yeah, it's rough stuff. Are there other things that at the bottom of the barrel, Kevin?
Oh, of course. I mean, Against the Ropes would be a very easy one. My Mom's New Boyfriend, The Deal, Serious Moonlight, IQ. I would even give it IQ. Like, I watched that movie just like grimacing the whole time, like, when will it end?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's a lot there. Unfortunately, mostly like towards the like latter end of her career. But it's rough stuff. Okay, let's get the fuck out of here. Let's get into our 5-star reviews. So this is tough because
it is tough.
She turns in some really wonderful performances. She has some solid bangers that are beloved.
And some of them are truly cultural resets.
Absolutely. Blueprints. I'm coming into this very fresh. I don't have a lot of emotional baggage to a lot of these movies. I think I was most affected by her performance and the story in 1994's When a Man Loves a Woman.
I thought this was coming.
I mentioned before how she's not really an anchored actor. Somehow in this movie, she's able to do both things. She is steady and anchored, but because this movie asks of her to, you know, those scary things that when a loved one who's an alcoholic is being wild or crazy or is behaving, you know, in a reckless way when they're drunk. It asks that of her. And in the beginning, when she's like throwing the eggs at the car and getting on top of it, I think she's somehow was able to harness her kind of like flowy hippie vibe, free and fanciful vibe into this very interesting space of like that, but scary. Because it's scary. Like, and this is a slow burn movie where it's like, oh, this is fun. Like this silly girl, you know, like they like having drinks and going out.
And she, I think the movie does a really good job of like, she seems really fun towards the beginning.
Yeah.
And when the turn happens, you're like, oh no, this is a problem.
Yeah. But it's also like, for a lot of people, it is just so normal, you know, and like, it is not the like over the top big things. It's like little things that happen, you know, and that are kind of amount to these bigger events and things that happen. And I think she's able to harness still being, you know, cute and lovable and has all this chemistry with Andy Garcia. But it just harnessing the darkness. I think it was pretty astounding. And there's certainly a lot of movies about, you know, addiction and alcoholism where it's like go for broke, Oscar, big, chewing the scenery type things. I think she really understood the assignment that this wasn't about that. This was about like the everyday normalcy of people who are good and decent, who deserve a second chance and who deserve empathy and very like unjudged. Like a big part of this movie is how Andy Garcia is very judgmental to all the other people in the program with her.
Right. He's judgmental of her. And I think part of it is, you know, she is, for better or worse, no longer the woman he fell in love with.
Yeah.
Because she was a woman under the influence. And he sort of loved that about her. And I think the movie does a really good job of tracing her character, moving from somebody who is more spontaneous, but also has this, you know, is suffering, to somebody who is now more ordered and more like it's scheduled and like she has routine and
she can take care of herself.
Right.
You know, and there's that scene where he finally talks at the Al-Anon meeting he goes to. It is just devastating. It is just so heartbreaking. He's so good. Like I said, the kids are so good. The scene you mentioned about her rock bottom is when she downs a bottle of aspirin and with vodka, crashes through the shower door, and her child, played by Tina Majorino, sees her, was just slapped by her. Both her and Mae Whitman are hilarious in this movie.
Yeah,
they're so good. The writing is sharp. The writing is sharp, but it's also tender and loving. You know, it's schmaltzy for sure, but I don't think it's manipulative, and I don't think this movie goes for any cheap shots or easy ways out. Like, I love that they have a house, or like a babysitter, I guess.
Yes,
who helps out. She's like a young Asian woman, and she gets to fucking say, "I'm out of here." Like, and she has her own like shit. I love that. You know, this movie's also concerned with Andy Garcia's job. Like, he can't do all this. Like, he does have to make a tough decision.
Do they know how this got started?
How I became an alcoholic? No. They don't know that. Nobody seems to know that. My dad's drinking didn't help. The way my mother made me feel like nothing. Or maybe it's genetic, or nobody knows. Did you think this was about you?
Why would you say that?
Well, I don't know. You just seem a little defensive.
Why would I be defensive? Is somebody attacking me?
No. Nobody's attacking you. Michael, I am just hanging on here.
This is not some fucking fantastical world. Like, there's a lot of real life things. And obviously, like, I was thinking, man, you know, she only had to go to rehab once. She is a white woman of means who was able to afford all this stuff. But like, the movie just feels very grounded in reality.
And I am glad that like they slightly touch on that perspective of the woman taking care of her at rehab is like, I like failed out of rehab twice before.
And says, because she's like, tell me it's to be okay. And she's like, it's not. She's like, my marriage failed. And then and there's no resolution to that. And I love that, because it's like the inherent takeaway is like, yeah, your marriage might fail, but you'll be fine. You know, and you might come back, and that's okay. Like, you just gotta keep doing the work. Like, there is no answer. There is no like magic thing. It's, you know, these two people are trying to give each other as much grace as possible. But it's just like such a hard, horrible thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this movie to me feels the most romantic. It feels like, because their connection is like really palpable, but also just like they are going through it. It's not like some kind of antics thing that's going, their love is persevering through like real hardship.
And it's really tough when you come from a family that has addiction in it. It's not easy. And I like that I feel bad because I feel like in saying that I'm like taking something away from Meg Ryan's character, and I'm not, but I like that the film touches on those other elements too. That it's that it's not just, because like you said, if it was like an Oscar Beatty thing, it would just be her. It would be the 28 Days Later with or just 28 Days. Sorry, 28 Days Later is the zombie
Different movie. Yeah.
28 Days. The like
Mila Kunis.
No, that's Sandy.
Yeah,
Sandra Bullock and
yeah.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah,
and like,
that's right.
You'd be that version, but it's not. This movie is thorny and has issues and like.
But it doesn't like, it tells you like she doesn't have a great relationship with her mom, but we don't linger on it too much. Like it's not like these are things that she's as a character has tried to move past, but like there's a lot of information that you get from this movie just by sitting with it and being with it. And it's really a smart movie, a sensitive movie. I fucking cried and cried.
Yeah. I'm shocked I didn't. I remember crying when I was a kid. I remember, that ending's great. I mean, it's a very Hollywood-y ending, but it's great.
No, yeah, it's so great. The parallel to the beginning, it's just...
Yeah.
So, the scenes where Andy Garcia has to say bye to the girls.
Oh shut up.
My God.
Why would you bring that up?
God. What's your 5-star?
I think that's a great choice. I thought you were heading there, and that's why I was like nervous that I was kind of saying some shit about it earlier, but I think it's an excellent that's the thing about a 5-star review. 5-star review can be anything if it works.
Talk your shit, okay? Like it's okay. Your heart is hardened now, Gavin, and that's just something we have to accept.
Well, I guess I'm queen of the basic bitches because I really want to give it to When Harry Met Sally. I mean, I just think it's so good.
Stunning.
And like I said, I didn't watch it for fucking years. Years I went without watching this movie. And it's everything that everybody says it is. I mean, I guess we didn't really describe the plot earlier, but I feel like it's, people know what it is. This young girl in college decides to drive this man named Harry. He's dating her friend to New York City because they're both going to start their lives in New York City. They part after he like hits on her essentially. And years later they reconnect. They decide to become friends. He's divorced. She's just out of a fresh relationship. He's like emotional and depressed, very funny, but like kind of wounded. And she's like very like, no, hey, my life, it is my life and things happen. But also at the same time, and I think this is what I love about the character, the Nora Ephron-ness of it all, is she's also really particular. Like she is fucking annoying when it comes to ordering food at a restaurant. Nora Ephron once said that she was on an airplane and the flight attendant came to ask her what she wanted for food, and she was very particular, and the flight attendant rolled her eyes and said, have you ever seen When Harry Met Sally?
Yeah, bitch, I wrote it.
Yeah, I wrote it.
I have to mention, so everything you said, yes, but when they're driving to New York, they have this conversation of whether a man and a woman can just be friends.
Right.
And that vibe continues throughout the 15 years that pass through this. Also, shout out to them, like really looking like time has passed.
Yeah.
Whoever makeup and hair and costume, like,
they did a good job making him look younger and her look older. She's so mature, and I mean that in like a positive way. I don't mean like she's like a matron.
Well, it just looks like time has passed for all of them, from the beginning of the movie to the end.
Famous, and literally it's until they sleep together, and they sleep together brought on by the fact that like, he's always like very like, essentially they run into his ex-wife with her new, is she remarried or just her
engaged.
fiance?
Yeah.
And later, and he's like a big dick about it, and she's like, it's not that big of a deal. And then later she finds out that her ex is now engaged, and it's a huge blow to her ego because she's like, well, I guess he did want to get married, just not to me. And he comes over to comfort her, and they fuck. Yeah. And
it's under not the best circumstances. Like,
right.
It's very pity fuck vibes. Neither of them feels
seem to really enjoy it. They instantly call their friends who they've gotten together, Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher.
So
and
good, both of them.
That great, like,
yep.
4 box of them all on the phone together.
What happened?
What's the matter?
Harry came over last
I
night.
went over to Sally's last night.
Because I was upset that Joe was getting married.
And one thing led to another.
And before I knew it, we were kissing.
To make a long story short, we did it.
They did it.
That's great, Sally.
We've been praying for it.
You should have done it in the first place.
For months we've been saying you should do it.
You guys belong together.
It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
It's like 2 wrongs make a right.
How was it?
The during part was good.
I thought it was good.
But then I felt suffocated.
Then I guess it wasn't.
Jesus, I'm sorry.
The worst.
I had to get out of there.
He just disappeared.
I feel so bad.
I'm so embarrassed.
I don't blame you.
That's horrible.
I think I'm coming down with something.
I think I'm catching a cold.
Look, it would have been great if it worked out, but it didn't.
I should never go to bed with anyone when you found out your last boyfriend is getting married.
Who's that talking?
Who?
Is that Jess on the phone?
It's Jane Fonda on the VCR.
It's Brian Gumbel.
Yeah, and then it's like, can they be friends now that they fucked? And like, is he gonna realize he's fucking in love with her because she realized that she's in love with him, even though, and yeah,
that wedding scene even is, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. It's pretty good. I mean, the fight like back,
and it's a real fight, and
yeah.
I think that is the thing that's missing from it's kind of Sleepless in Seattle. She's allowed to be like kind of a particular person, but like you've got Mail, she's like an angel.
Yeah,
and like and that's definitely one of those things that like gets buffed out of romantic comedies as it goes along. And that's what I like about When Harry Met Sally. She feels like a real person, and their relationship feels real, and they're allowed to get angry at each other, to really fucking dig at each other. But also, like, it's because they love each other so much.
Yeah, there's really some of that like venom that I was talking about earlier, and hesitation. Like they do not see each other for like 5 years or whatever it is, and run into each other by happenstance. And when they do, even though he's flirting with her, he's engaged, and she's happily, in a relationship, and you really feel that like. These people don't have to be friends, don't have to talk to each other, they don't have to end up together. Like, it's not a given. And we also haven't mentioned there's like these really great like interstitial splice couples talking to each other.
Which it's so fun because what essentially Rob Reiner did is he interviewed old couples, had those interviews transcribed, and then hired actors to play those. So your face.
No, Samantha Stallard was like, these are actual couples. And I was like, this seems too
nope
actorly. Like, there's no way.
And but that's the brilliance of it, is a lot of people go into that thinking that there is this documentary element, and it's not real. But it is real, because it is, these stories, these people.
Yeah, it's that movie really shook me. I will say, I just think sometimes it just is like that. It just is. And relationships are fucking hard, and being vulnerable and honest, and like, I mean, there's so much great romance in this movie, like on the New Year's thing and running to go get her. And the fights seem really meaty.
And like, I mean, everybody knows the fucking orgasm scene. I just read an interview with her. There's a great interview from this past August that's her and Carol Burnett for Interview magazine, and she's like, yeah, fucking Jack texted me the other day to be like, I'm shooting something, because this was right before the strike. I'm shooting something and I'm in a hotel across from Katz's Deli. Do you know they have a sign above the seat that you sat in? He's like, it's very embarrassing, Mom.
Yeah, And she said that she was the one who said that she should have the fake orgasm. Yeah. Like, it was in the script, they're talking about it, but she was the one who was like, oh, well, Sally is a very, physical communicator. I think she would do it. So it was her idea to do it, and it's iconic.
And then they did it like 60 times or whatever. I that's an exaggeration, but they did it a lot. They had to do that scene quite a bit. I guess, I think after she came up with it, I was reading that Rob Reiner like went and essentially did the scene for the people that were the like extras that were to be like, this is what you're gonna have to react to. Yeah. Which is very funny trying to imagine Rob Reiner doing that.
An orgasm. Yeah.
But it's a really lovely film, and just she's so good in it, and I understand why it like started that Meg Ryan rom-com domination.
Well, it's also like New York's almost like a fantasy world because, again, there's no traffic.
I was really scared you were going to be like, New York is like an extra character in it. I was going to be like,
no,
we're not doing another episode. We're done.
It's a fantasy world because there's no traffic. It's very squeaky clean.
Yeah.
But the reality of the people is so good that it kind of just like, New York is just like a nice, beautiful frame for these two highly charged humans who are in love, perhaps. Yeah, it's so good. What else, Gavin? Can we recommend?
I mean, I would watch Joe versus the Volcano anytime this week. I love it. I love Inner Space. I know it's deranged. Please just watch Inner Space.
Okay.
Go on.
Well, I was to say, I think her other great rom-com is Kate and Leopold. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I think her and Hugh have really good chemistry. In the Cut.
Yes, In the Cut, always.
Hello?
Always. And like, even though she doesn't do the singing in Anastasia, and you know what? I'm still going to end this episode with a song for Anastasia. She's great. She's great.
She's great. I love Anastasia. Okay. Let's do our mixed reviews review. My 1-star review was 1997's Addicted to Love.
And my 1-star review was 2008's The Women, but also Addicted to Love is very bad.
Both very bad. My 5-star review is 1994's When a Man Loves a Woman.
And my 5-star review is 1989's When Harry Met Sally. ...
All right, Gavin, let's get into our fast forward. Right now, you can go to your local cinema and watch Meg's second directorial outing.
Effort.
Yeah. What Happens Later, the two-hander with David Duchovny. I have not seen this.
I have.
You have. What are our thoughts? What are our feelings?
It's not bad. I don't mean to make it sound bad, but I don't think it's good either. That's the unfortunate thing is. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. It's based off a play by Stephen Dietz. It sort of came to her in the pandemic, and she was trying to think of like what's something small I could do. I think the unfortunate thing is that she never really elevates it. There's occasional moments like bits and bobs, but she never really elevates it from play.
Okay.
And so it never really captures that magic of like the before movies that really feel like something outside, that feels cinematic outside of just two characters talking.
Yeah.
It's a movie of two ex-lovers who years ago, David Duchovny and Meg Ryan were together. And he just walked out one day, and you find out, like, without giving too much away, that essentially he walked out because she wanted to open their relationship up.
Oh.
And I think that's like an interesting, complicated thing. And I truly think the final third of the movie is great. It's just, you have to sit through the first 2/3 and you get horrible scenes like David Duchovny listening to a very bad cover of a Matchbox 20 song being like, remember when rock and roll was rock and roll and not algorithm?
Wait, so is he saying Matchbox 20 is...
I guess? Like...
I don't know where Matchbox 20 falls into that. Like, I don't think it's real rock and roll or algorithm. That's Friends soundtrack music.
It feels very like old people shake fist at clouds until the third act, which is very surprising to me. And like, it's got a couple like magical realism. They're both they're trapped in the same airport. He's going to I can't remember where he's going to, but she's going to visit. You know what? Just know they're
at the airport.
Yeah, he's going to Boston. She's going to Austin. It rhymes. They both have the same. She's Willa. He's Bill. They have the same last name, and for some reason the loudspeaker occasionally reacts to them.
Something wasn't right.
Yeah, so it's like very like, are they really in an airport? Is this like some dream scenario? Is this like an afterlife? But I think she shows real promise as a director. I don't mean to like, I think, and she has said now, the next thing she directs, she doesn't want to be in. And I'd be very interested in that, because I think it would alleviate her of the pressure, because like this where this falls flat is that it feels like a play, and doesn't rise out of that. But I don't know. I think it's good enough to go see. You know, when it comes out on streaming, I would watch it.
This definitely feels like a good airplane movie.
Yeah.
Or just like put it on Prime and let it rip.
It's very easy breezy. I wish. I don't have any ill will against David Duchovny. I wish they had a little more chemistry together. And part of that is he's so flat. Like he's like really deadpan about everything.
Yeah.
That I think you really have to calibrate the like your performance, and she's
not
Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, like
I read that in her everyday life, she has a hip problem now and she walks with a limp. And
I didn't even know that.
And that in the movie, there's a throwaway line that like, she's like, my hip doesn't keep me from dancing. Like she also walks with a limp in the movie. But that it's...
I did notice that, but I assumed it was a character thing. She's also like in combat boots the entire movie. And then one of the interviews I was reading, they were like, oh, and she's dressed in combat boots. And I was like, oh, that just must be what she wears now. But maybe that's what's comfortable to her, you know?
Yeah. I don't know what I just read that. Yeah, she had a hip injury, and now she kind of like walks with a little bit of a limp. But you know, like we mentioned, she is 61 years old. And from what it sounds like, you know, she was trying to make this movie for almost 5 years now. It took a long while to get to. Super small budget.
I think it was like 2 to 6 million somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it was 3, and she had to call in a lot of favors.
3 million. Yeah.
Had to call in a lot of favors. But I kind of like that energy. I like that vibe. She, you know, she said she took all this time off because that's what she wanted. She wanted to like figure herself out outside of Hollywood. She wanted to raise her kids. She wanted to, you know, just be free. And you know, I love that now she can do all of this on her own terms. She is no longer, you know, America's sweetheart. She doesn't have to like live up to any of that shit anymore.
Yeah, and that's what makes me the most happy is that it sucks that she had to stay away for so long, but she stayed away long enough to like kill the reputation.
Yeah. And it's funny. I love in her interviews, she talks about how, you know, she's like, yeah, you know, everyone talked about how charming I was and I had to be in these movies. And she's like, and sometimes I think people just have it. And she's really gracious and says, you know, people like Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence, they just have it within them. And, you know, I think she just gives off such good vibes in her interviews. She really is one of those modern Hollywood people who has been around the block and seen it all. She talks about how she certainly was around nasty executives who had bad behavior. She said, I always figured out how to get out of the room, but you know, that certainly was there. And you know, she talks about she had to move away from LA. I think for a long while she was in New York. I think they just moved back to LA to be closer to, because Jack is filming a lot there, and so they wanted to be close to him. And yeah, I feel like even if, you know, what happens later doesn't blow up and become like a huge thing, it makes me happy that she's doing what she wants to do under her own rules. And, you know, she's always going to fucking be Meg Ryan. She's always going to be one of the like great American rom-com actresses. And I think her finding comfort and being able to do that on her own terms is a really wonderful thing. And I'm excited to like, I want to see this movie and I want to see what happens later.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it. No, yeah, I'm excited. I want her to continue directing, and I do think she has a good eye for it. And I like watching her talk about it and listening to her. You know, this movie's dedicated to Nora Ephron, and she has obviously like really great things to say about Nora Ephron.
It's really a thank you, honestly. You know, like I was paying attention when we were working together, and I have so many. I'm just blessed to have been in so many of her movies and be trusted by her, and she loved this genre. I love this genre. It's just a thank you.
She seems happy, and like I want more for her. Because once again, it's the thing where like, isn't that the goal? Like, aren't we supposed to like do what we love? And not having to be America's Sweetheart is what she loves now. She wants to make the movies that star America's Sweetheart if she can, you know?
Yeah, and I think she's like maybe, and especially now that like In the Cut has gotten like this reappraisal, and she can look back and be like, oh yeah, those like weird things I was doing are kind of actually cool, and I want to do more of that. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens next for her. I certainly hope she can get another movie faster than she got this one, and you know, continue on this journey, because I think she fucking rocks, and I think she is an icon. She is the moment, and she is the mother I never had,
the sister I never wanted.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Meg Ryan.
That is absolutely Meg Ryan. If you want to contact us to write us about Meg Ryan, I don't know. I have no segue out of this episode.
If you want to have a meet cute with me and Gavin,
you can always find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
Or on Facebook, just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can always write us a little email by dropping us a line at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog, almost 150 episodes, you can find us on any major podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible, Amazon. And if you listen to us on any major podcast app, stop by, leave us a 5-star rating, write us a little review. It increases our visibility. And, you know, we've been doing this for a while, so it'd be nice to spread the love around.
Be like the Black Eyed Peas and spread the love. Wait, no, that song is called Where is the Love?
Where is the Love, yeah.
I guess I don't know my Black Eyed Peas that well. No.
But if you want to hear Louis' renditions of Black Eyed Peas songs, join our Patreon.
Yeah, that's
where they all live.
I upload all my karaoke rehearsals on our Patreon. Join us on Patreon. We have a good time. And also, you know, the holidays are here, right around the corner. So everyone stay safe and have a very lovely holiday season. We will see you in December for more holiday antics.
And congrats, actors and writers.
Yes!
End of the strike. Congrats.
End of the strike. Animation Guild. You're up next, girlies. Let's go!
Let's go!
Bye.
Somewhere down this road, I know someone's waiting. Years of dreams just can't be wrong.